So let's keep the language under
Hey,
control. But
you
you
brought
know
me
what?
on,
No,
dude. You brought me on 420.
yeah.
You had it coming. But why you gotta hate
No,
on
no, no,
Led
no, no,
Zeppelin
no, no.
like
I
that?
don't have it coming. No, no, no. My show, my rules. I don't want that, please. Now you have the ability to control it, so please don't do that.
Happy 420,
Now
Chuck.
you want to get on me about the Zeppelin thing, okay? But don't do that on my show. I want to distribute this podcast widely, and I won't be able to if that's where we go. So please. But Zeppelin, yeah, I've got my opinion, and you know what it is.
Yeah, you know what opinions are like, right?
Yes.
Just saying, dude. Why you gotta hate on the Zeppelin, bro? Happy 420, Barry.
Hey, back at you, Daniel. Haven't talked to you for a while, bud. Good to hear your voice.
It's been a minute. You celebrating today?
Well, I celebrate every day, Daniel.
All
It's
right, brother.
part of my regiment.
Oh, brother.
I'm one of those regular consumers of cannabis oil because I have the stuff and I can do it. So I put that in my body every day, buddy, and I'll tell you, it's doing a lot of good things for me. You know, the hypocrisy of cannabis still being classified as a class 1 narcotic. I mean,
Oh,
um,
actually,
there's over 100 peer-reviewed studies now available, and I've looked at a majority of them.
can't
Hardcore,
wait.
undeniable studies about
Cannabis,
the effects of cannabis on cancer. Let me just finish. So that's a hypocrisy that we have to address. Go ahead.
cannabis is a Schedule One.
Yeah, same schedule as it. Cannabis has no medical benefit to the human body according to the U.S. government. It is
Well,
classified in the same classification as heroin, as an addictive drug with no medical benefits to the human body. Yet right now, like I said, there's over 100. And go on the internet and punch it up, guys, and go look for the peer-reviewed studies of the effects of cannabinoids on cancer. And it is in black and white. It attacks and kills cancer. It's not something that is up for discussion anymore, according to what I've read and according to these studies. But the government can't obviously read. We know why cannabis is being held back, why they will not declassify it as a class 1 drug, because it will absolutely destroy big pharma, and they know that.
well, let me,
Anything that cannabis touches, it'll destroy, or not destroy, will destroy their product and replace it. And they know that. Go ahead.
so and I'm a little confused because I was under the impression that in order to be a Schedule One, there had to be no known medical uses. But last year in April, the National Institute of Health, which is a government entity, actually released their own studies that show that it does have known medical uses. So my I'm a little confused because doesn't that take away the requirement for cannabis to be a Schedule One? I mean, if the government just admitted last year itself that it does have known medical uses, but the requirement under the Controlled Substance Act to be in a Schedule One is no known medical uses. Does that not mean that cannabis is no longer a Schedule One, even though the DEA hasn't updated their schedule?
Mm. What's your thought, Chuck? What do you think?
My thoughts. Well,
Yeah.
again, the
Was I correct in what I just said?
yeah, both of you were correct. And here's the fun part. Even though you have different government entities allegedly making statements that sound like, hey, we're making some progress related to this, we still have a Justice Department prosecuting people in exactly the same way that they would have without that information. Gee, I wonder what the motivation for that might be, Daniel.
Mm. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I mean, look, what would be the motivation for keeping a plant that everybody should have access to for their own well-being? I mean, we're born with an endocannabinoid system in our bodies, which, has a symbiotic relationship with cannabis, with THC, and with CBDs. So, I look at the supreme law of the land and I see, the whole point of this American experiment is supposed to be about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, look, I have lungs. That means I have a right to oxygen, to air. If you come up to me and you put your hand on my mouth and nose and suffocate me, isn't that murder? Isn't it murder?
If it's done properly, I guess so. It
Murder.
could be. Yes.
So, I mean, my thinking is this: if I am born with an endocannabinoid system, that means my body needs cannabis. So, for the federal government to stand in the way of me getting access to what I need for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, isn't that attempted murder? I mean, you know, I just think simply about it and try to get back to the basis of what this whole American experiment's about and how, in God's name or Goddess's name, a plant could be, you know, the DOJ's most wanted. Are you serious? Could it be that maybe what they don't want us to do is put together our own emotions and thoughts after being traumatized since 9/11 and beyond? That we as a collective society have post-traumatic stress disorder on some level or the other, and cannabis might be the cure for us as a nation to heal and perhaps stop carpet bombing other nations that we get heroin and poppy from, which to bring back over here. I mean, it's like a circle jerk. But you know what? We get the government that we deserved, guys. We really, really do. And if we don't like what we see in our government right now, we ought to really look in the mirror and ask ourselves, you know, because it's true. Whether you like it or whether you don't like it, you get the government you deserve. And so it's like
That's absolutely true. And I'll tell you something else about this, which I've always found remarkable, and a point that you've made several times in discussions regarding this, but I'd like to take it in my own direction here. You know, there is the First Amendment to the Constitution, which has a lot of things in it. And one of those things is about my religious freedom and my ability to practice in a spiritual way, any which way I desire, without having the government become involved in it. Now, here's the problem. To my mind, to utilize cannabis in certain ways is part of various spiritual practices, some of which I am directly and constantly engaged in. And the fact that this is something that that is part of that directly, whether people want to understand it or not, and no, I'm not a Native American, but cannabis is useful in some of my spiritual practices, in some of my religious beliefs. The use of the plant, I mean, if I want to eat it, I think I should be allowed to eat it. Quite honestly, even if you did think it was poison, I should be allowed to eat it as well, because as I stated in the first hour, even if you didn't believe any of the beneficial data that is out there related to the plant, if I wished to be destructive to myself, much like I smoke cigarettes, and that was a decision I made many years ago, and I've remained addicted to them, I do believe I'm free to smoke cigarettes, even though we are well aware of the fact that those things are destructive to me. They're not part of my spiritual practices, though. Cannabis can be and is indeed, and I'm not the only one. So here's the thing. Why is it that part of my spiritual freedom is limited because I wish to utilize a plant? Again, not thinking about what the effects of it might be or anything else. Let's just say it was part of creating a scent in a room because that is the atmosphere that should be appropriately set for my religious practices. Doesn't matter. The reality is that there is no good justification for this. And meanwhile, as I stated also, you know, there's plenty of legal, admissible, admittedly permissible things out there that are much more destructive to you, that are available over the counter, disguised as various remedies and treatments for other things, even as soft drinks and candy at certain points, lots of toxic things that have been in and out of the food supply that, you know, are given to everybody from children all the way to the most senior of citizens out there with no issues whatsoever. And the alleged medical industry, as I said in the first hour too, you know, here we go. How often do you have to hear about another class action lawsuit devoted to, well, gee, you took this medicine because your blood pressure was too high, or you took this medicine because you were having trouble peeing at night or whatever. But if you had to have your legs amputated or some of your organs absolutely liquidated one way or another, or if you're dead, or maybe one of your relatives is dead, by the way, contact the law offices of whatever, and whatever, because there's a class action lawsuit out there for you. Why is it that that's going on? And we still have this prohibition. I mean, is it just the simple answer that the industrialists have benefited for way too long from this prohibition? because of the usefulness altogether of the plant, or is there something deeper to it? With that, I'm very sure that Barry has absolutely no opinion related to this. So I'd like to ask you, Barry, what do you think of what I just said? I mean, I'm just a crazy pothead, right?
You're just a crazy pothead, buddy. But you know what, Chuck? Um, the government done, the bottom line is if we look at everything that the government allows us to participate in, from the consumption of alcohol to the amount of opiates that are on the street today, the effects of prescription drugs, we look at the numbers of how many people are dying in North America from drug interaction, which is supported and propagated and protected by the government. Cannabis represents a threat to all of that, and they know it. So they're going to fight it tooth and nail. Nothing that the government does is beneficial for our bodies, and we're seeing that effect now in society. And they know if people get their hands on cannabis, Big Pharma is going to take a big hit in the head. And that's what this is all about. They're never going to let us to have it to the point where it was meant to be on this planet. Cannabis has been on this planet for tens of thousands of years. It has benefited this planet for tens of thousands of years. Our animals used to eat it. We used to eat the animals that used to eat cannabis. Our bodies were saturated with CBDs and CBLs. Feral animals eating hemp is one of the best things that you could actually put into your body if an animal is raised on hemp. And we did that for thousands of years, and it was taken away. We all know the story of how it was demonized, why the word marijuana was applied. We knew who applied that and what was the benefit from it. And now we see a world that's just so sick. We are just, our society is just upside down. And they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep this away from us. This is not in their plan. Because like I said, Chuck, this nobody can ever convince me that this plant has any harm to the human body. I've never, ever been able to correlate it with any harm to the human body, but I read hundreds of reports about effects on Parkinson's, on seizures, on just about every disorder in the human body. This plant has a positive effect on. They know that. So we got to get people educated. I think it all comes down to people really determining the truth about cannabis in their own minds. Put all the hypocrisy and all the bullshit. Excuse my language, Chuck. I don't like to swear. Beep that out. But all the bull, put it all aside. Look at the hardcore facts. Look at the studies and judge for yourself. Why is this being kept away from us?
Well, absolutely.
It's a really deep rabbit hole. It's a deep rabbit hole.
Well,
Chuck.
you know, I don't think it's that deep of a rabbit hole, but what's happening is we see there's a lot of information that could be gathered about it, and what is the contradiction about at this point in time. Now, this is where we could begin to argue, but I don't want to. I would rather go into some other areas here, because it's not that deep. Society in general is deciding different things at this point. State by state, we see in this country abandoning their laws entirely regarding what they call marijuana legislation, but really decriminalizing or legalizing it for medicinal and recreational use, which again it's I have no problem with either, that's for sure, and it seems to be a lot more logical thing and goes along with the will of the people. But Daniel brought up something that I think is extremely relevant. How many people are suffering from some sort of, PTSD at this point in time? The post 9/11 reality, sure. But some people might say, well, you're going a little far, Daniel, but not really. Because anybody I talk to seems to have some sort of wounding in their past. And I've been talking about this a lot more recently. Whatever your brand of wounding may be. I've got to tell you that one of the most often reasons why I would love to have it much more accessible and, without any sort of criminal consequence is due to the fact that it would be a very helpful thing for me when it comes to anxiety. And here I go getting personal about it. When it comes to anxiety, when it comes to a very legitimate PTSD, I mean, I'm not overusing the term when I state that I have these issues. And, it seems to me as though I can't run into anybody who doesn't have some sort of issue, whether they served in the military or had a difficult childhood or were involved in a car accident that, produced some horrific things, or they've been a victim of a crime, or it doesn't even seem to matter. It's like anybody who has been in one way or another affected in some way by trauma could benefit from this, because I got to tell you, it's difficult to sleep some nights. Most nights, in fact, it's difficult to relax. It's difficult to not react to, untoward noises that occasionally creep up on me, things like this. But when utilizing a very small amount, by the way, I'm not talking about getting, baked to the point of I can't even get up and I feel like a bag of sand, although nothing wrong with that in my estimation either. The thing is, a little bit of it right then and there takes care of a lot of that. And I got to think that people that are veterans and people that have been through some very, severe life-changing circumstances would benefit from it all the way around. And given that this is a popular point of discussion, the amount of damage, the wounds, the PTSD, whatever, it seems like maybe that is part of what is really driving the change in the public's mind. And yet we don't have the quick movement from our alleged representation. We have a bipolar situation where there are a lot of states that have changed their laws. There are some that have not. And there are still people sitting in jail cells right next to murderers and rapists because they had possession of a plant. So, Daniel, what about that aspect of it? And by all means, I want to just kind of turn it over to you for a couple of minutes if you're good to go, and talk to people about that.
I mean, honestly, Chuck, you know me and I know you, and we're all three of us here are spiritual people. And when I try to wrap my head around this, the whys of it, it's almost like a very well-woven, interconnected web that, in my personal belief, goes beyond the political. It goes beyond, monetary reasons, and it goes into a spiritual realm. Cannabis itself is a spiritual plant. I'm actually reading a book right now called Cannabis and Spirituality, an Explorer's Guide to an Ancient Plant Spirit Ally. I encourage everybody to read it. And so I try to look at it like that. That I believe that the cannabis plant is a consciousness that is just one of, relaxation, calmness, things that this world needs right now. Like this world, dude, when you're just carpet bombing sovereign nations around the globe, just for whatever frivolous reasons, we as a entire planet need to calm down. You know what I mean? I know that there's a lot of energy going on in the political realms, and quite frankly, because of that static, that background noise, I've had to cut myself off from the world of politics for about a year, just to get it out of my system, because if you have trauma, and I know that a lot of people out there do have trauma, something that really sets you off is just whenever you're in an environment where the noise never stops. And that's what the political world is designed to do, and that's what the mainstream media is designed to do, and in a way, that's what the internet and social media is designed to do, is to consistently maintain noise in your mind. Walk around in public, man. It's been a minute since people haven't made sure to get their wallet, their keys, and their cell phone or smart device. It's almost like we're addicted to the internet. And sometimes, late at night, I walk around, I'll do my 420, I'll take my medicine and go get me some God. You know what I'm saying? Just be one with the universe, be calm, be peaceful, be with the cannabis spirit, the cannabis plant, and everything is just chill in my town. And I could walk around my town and I could tell everything is relaxed. But then I also look around and see disrepair, overgrowth, and I think, is this because we're becoming so pulled into the internet and reality's far, far away, like in Washington, D.C.? Do you really think that machine actually runs shit in this country? Do you really think that? No. So I look at the whole moving mechanism surrounding the issue of cannabis and why it's still so criminalized in so many places. And I say, this has to go into a totally spiritual realm. And so we have to address it there. And no amount of protesting, no amount of legislation, no amount of, witty wordsmiths with the Constitution is really going to get this situation solved, so much as each of us individually looking within ourselves and understanding that we have to first get well ourselves. You know, we have to become balanced. We have to heal our trauma. We really have to embrace the calmness that cannabis brings. And then when we find that balance from the bipolarism you're talking about, slowly start to implement change in the lives of people around us with that wellness. And I think that if we do it that way, it's like a reverse cancer. You know, I did something I rarely do the other night. I went to a public gathering, a party, you know, with all kinds of different people. And I have a vaporizer with my medicine in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks like a vaporizer, but you never know. And I took it with me, and there were people who were drinking there, and, you know, I'm a recovered alcoholic, so it's a weird environment for me to be sober at a gathering like that. But I got to meet all kinds of different people, and what you said is accurate. Most people at this party in some way had trauma, and I watched them all medicate in different ways that wasn't necessarily the best way to medicate. You understand what I'm saying? And what I ended up spending a lot of time with somebody who was a former veteran, a Marine, that was clearly traumatized, that was open about their PTSD. And I watched, like, this person go from very paranoid, very skittish, very scared, reacting to quick movements, in reaction, very like a rabbit. And after just a few hits of THC, clean medicine, a little bit of THC in this person's system, and they completely calmed down, got on a different wavelength, and it was miraculous. It was miraculous to watch somebody who felt like they were going to jump out of their skin one minute, be at complete peace another minute,
Right. Real quickly, somebody just tried to call in, and I didn't take the call, but please try again, because we are willing to entertain other people's thoughts about this subject, certainly during this discussion. And I did see looked like, callers, 252-301-2255, 252-301-2255. Now, I do know there's only 25 minutes left here to the broadcast time, or less, actually a little less. And but the reality is I can take this show a little longer if we're in a good groove. So no problem. Call in at 252-301-2255. But Daniel, that's a a firsthand account of watching somebody experience the benefits of being able to calm down. Because look, the damage from the trauma is one thing, but the effect that it has later is this amped up anxiety that, as you accurately put it, is encouraged by the media, is encouraged by the overall atmosphere, is certainly encouraged by the disconnected nature of our society at this point in time, where people's mental and spiritual energy is being fed into this surrogate reality. And you do see a lot of physical disrepair, because you've only got just so much energy in a day until it's time to recharge in whatever way you need to. Most people sleep a bit. Some people meditate or pray and then sleep. But you got to eat. You got to recharge those batteries. And if all of your energy has been drained during the day into something that doesn't produce results around you, and that's all you do on a day-to-day basis, giving over your will, if you will, directly to the surrogate reality, this is where you're going to be. Now, that is a kind of a different issue, but in a way, not so much, because I got to tell you that use of this plant can also get you less addicted to things like that, and less addicted to that need to continuously amp up your own anxiety, and which I see other people participating in constantly. And I do on some levels, but I'm more aware of it. I got to tell you that most times when my anxiety is amped up, it's totally involuntary. But here's the thing: whether it is an internal thing, which is the causality of your heightened anxiety and PTSD type symptomatic behavior, or it is something that is external that you have volunteered for and have become addicted to, it seems to me as though and again, your experience may vary a bit, a small dose or a larger dose from this plant when it is clean and it is, well cultivated and not tainted by whatever it is people decide to do with it afterwards, or bulk it up with, or whatever, or pesticides and all that. I mean, the best organic is the best organic, whether you're eating it, smoking it, or whatever. Seems to me as though this is exactly the answer for a society that is plagued by the problem of generalized anxiety, whether it be from a post-traumatic event or the conditions at hand. And isn't that really what you're saying in a nutshell?
I mean, it's dude, it's such a simple concept. The whole issue is so simple to me that it even astonishes me that we're even discussing it the way that we are anymore. I mean, you you've never seen outspurts of violence or hatred or discontent or separation at like a 420 rally. You never see people partaking of that plant at odds with one another. Man, they're always trying to find the interconnected things that make us one. Not building walls to divide us through semantics and legalese and political parties and stuff is silly. To me, it's so silly that we're even talking about it. I mean, and me, Chuck, I've gotten to the point to where I can't say, well, they want this, they don't want us to have this plant, or they want this, or they, honestly, man, it's really, really us. It's we the people. The reason that you see bipolarism in DC over this issue particularly is because somehow or another, we as Americans have been conditioned to believe that we have to wait for permission to be free from some guys up on Capitol Hill that don't know us from Adam. We have been conditioned to believe that we have to wait for some senator or some congressman or some president to come down from the mountain with golden tablets with verbiage like that specifically states what we're allowed to do. I mean, we're having to call lawyers to figure out which way to wipe our ass. That's not American, And it's this whole issue so strange to me because it's a simple thing. Look around the country, man. The homeless epidemic is becoming insane. I live in Warner Robins, Georgia, dude. We're supposed to be one of the most growthful and booming towns in Georgia, and have recently discovered that there is an entire underculture in my town of homeless people that I never knew about. And I'm like, where did this come from? What's going on? And guess what? We live in an Air Force Base town where they have hedges and billboards and paintings and murals on the side of almost every building in this town that says every day in Middle Georgia is Air Force Appreciation Day. And then I have to stop and ask the question and go, then why is the homeless people that's causing an epidemic in this town of homelessness, why are they all veterans if we care so much about our veterans? Why is it that these people are in ditches and in alleyways and under bridges and in abandoned buildings flipping out because of what they did overseas in the name of freedom, right? And the VA can't even help them with simple medicine, simple things that they deserve when they come back over here after being misled and experiencing the trauma. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't mean to get passionate about it, but this is something that's recently been exposed to me, and I'm seeing the pain. Like when you lift the rock of our society up, you see some nasty shit, bro. And
Well,
prohibition
yeah.
of cannabis is just, to me, it's cruel and unusual punishment on
It's criminal.
on a people that need it right now, and they know that we need it. And so, I'm at the point, Chuck, where I'm not waiting for any legislation. I'm not waiting for any precedent. By God, I'm an American, and I have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if that involves cannabis use in a backward state that doesn't understand what the plant is for, then, oh well, dude, if I'm in a minority of one, at least I'm a minority of right. And I think
And
that all of
you
us have to get there. And until we do, you're not going to see anybody in Washington, D.C. vote in your favor. You have to do it yourself. You have to just do what's right, regardless of what the rules are, and let the chips fall where they may. You know? That's just me.
well,
Just saying.
Well, right, and listen, you're correct, but here's the thing: why we still need to address this as far as the alleged representatives and everything, because there is no reason in the world the VA shouldn't be administering this to those guys. There is no way in the world that this should not be
No,
happening,
let me stop you.
except
Let me stop you. They should administer it to them before they send them overseas, and then we might put an end to war.
well,
You know,
listen,
Good
I'm
point.
not even looking to get that far because it's way
Good
too
point.
profitable. Okay, but what
thanks.
I'm saying is that you want to talk about what we're looking at right now. And by the way, it's not just where you are, obviously. And look, I'm a few towns away from you, and I've got the same thing right here. Got the same thing. It's not because you're an Air Force town. We don't have the same billboards, but we got the same type of people
Hmm.
living in the creases of underpasses, just under bridges to stay out of sight because they got nowhere else to go. There was a gentleman who used to be all the time in the parking lot over by the Piggly Wiggly here, who just recently died, and they put up little posters around to show pictures of him as a Marine. He was 68 years old, and he died homeless. And you know what? There's a lot of these guys around. They're not all veterans, but way too many of them are. And as you said, they might have been misled and everything else, and people judge them and say, oh, well, they got sucked into something and they were participants in the great evil. And listen,
Hey,
these are
hey,
people
wait,
that
wait, wait, wait,
felt
wait,
as
wait, wait, wait.
though,
Wait.
yeah,
All of us were 18 at one time, and we all did stuff we regret. So I don't really hold it over these soldiers' heads, when they're
that's right.
18 and they sign up, and then they only know what they're told. They just got out of a government school for the most part. They don't even know what their rights are. They don't even know what the Constitution is. So they're just going through a machine. I don't blame them. But you know
No,
what? If we as a society are going to allow our government to send these young guys and gals over there to do some screwed up crap, okay, we have to do something as the American, citizenry to heal what we have broken through apathy and ignorance by allowing our country to police the world.
yeah, I
I
hear
mean,
you. And but my point here also is that, both of us, again, disclosure, both of us are children of veterans. Okay, our fathers both served. They didn't go over there to become part of the evil military-industrial complex. They didn't sign up for that reason.
no.
In their hearts and their minds, quite honestly, you know what? It might have been to get a job. It might have been, because they thought this was a great thing to do. It might have been, but you know what? The majority of them that I speak to, because I take the time to speak to these guys all the time, especially the older guys, because they're much easier to approach quite honestly, for me than the younger ones. The younger guys seem to be even more damaged, than the older ones. Quite honestly, these older guys, for the most part, they went over there with, first of all, the idea in their minds that they were doing something that would help to defend their neighbors, their families. That it would help to protect them from the things that might be harmful around the world one way or another. And that's whether they served in war or not, but a lot of them did. And when they end up serving in war, you know what their primary concern is generally is to try and protect the guy standing next to them. Okay, and that is what it's about. It's usually about a service that they think that they're providing, literally, okay, to you, me, and everybody. And that is where their mind is. Now, are they correct about it? Or, look, I don't pass judgment on these guys. Again, like you said, first of all, most of them are 18. My father signed up when he was 17, turns out. But, you sign up as a young man thinking you're doing something right, something good. And we've all done things in our younger years that we thought was proper, good, right, or righteous in some way. You wind up judging it a little differently when you learn exactly how the world works. But the thing is, I don't want to get into the judgment of these men. They're here. This is the result. Why is it that they are not the first in line to be treated with anything and everything that could make their lives productive, better, less painful, whatever, given the fact that, whether you believe the old gung-ho Boy Scout nonsense of they are really the people that protect and defend us, or you just admit that that's what they thought they were doing. Are they not worthy of anything and everything, whatever it might be, to make their lives better, to make the rest of their existence easier, to make the rest of their existence less painful, especially considering that people like at the VA, like parts of the military, are now responsible for their pain ever after, for what their condition is ever after. It is absolutely reprehensible that we're in a country where again, veterans are celebrated but not truly venerated. They are, don't ever disrespect them. But by the way, don't ever treat them with actual dignity either. Because, hey, I guess they don't deserve the gateway drug if that's the thing that'll help them. It is absolutely reprehensible and disgusting. And I think the VA should be administering this, yeah, you're right, before they go over. Well, that would mean that we might not have the situation we have at all. I'm not sure if we can hope for that because, again, too profitable to too many people. But same time, there is no reason in the world, given the condition that some of these people are in, that they should not be given every single opportunity to not be suffering. Because I one thing I don't see in this thing they call the Constitution or in anybody's spiritual coda one way or another is the right to suffer and how suffering is supposed to be part of your existence. I could have swore that most things say that you're not supposed to do that. I mean, I realize there's some religious orders that believe that suffering is part of the reality, and you know what it is, but it doesn't need to be handed to you in excess from the people that are supposed to be serving you, okay? No matter who they are and no matter what the circumstance is. Am I right or wrong?
Well put. One of the things that really, I look at the veterans that go overseas and fight and then they come back, what they're exposed to over there. Most people would not be able to handle just what some of the stuff these guys see. And then you bring them back to the States and a good majority of them are put on antidepressants, Chuck. And then we wonder why 27, I think it is the number 27 veterans are committing suicide right now in the United States every day. That's a crazy number, but that's the numbers I seem to be seeing. Well, man, you take a person overseas and tell them to go kill children, or if they end up killing a child, that effect on me, I would not be able to live with that in my life if I killed a child, because I love children. But these guys come back and the government sticks them on antidepressants or psychotropics, sometimes 2 or 3 of them, and then we see 27 of them a day killing themselves. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, guys, that the government really doesn't care about their veterans as far as I can see, in any shape or form, because cannabis, you look at states that are using legal cannabis now, and you look at the drop in people that are using psychotropic drugs in those states, and I read some numbers, we're seeing drops of up to 30% reduction in the use of psychotropics. I have one friend here, and Chuck, and I'll only share this story real quick, but I got a lady friend here in Terrace that was on psychotropics for 2 years. She was getting some really weird dreams, and she was getting suicidal thoughts. They were really starting to have an effect on her, and she wanted to get off them. She went without cannabis the first 2 weeks trying to withdraw from these drugs, and she literally had to stay home from work, Chuck. She was just a mess. But we got her on oil, and the effect was absolutely amazing. And I'm glad to say right now she's been free of psychotropics now for over a year. And I watched the effect of cannabis when she started taking it and how it stimulated her brain. And it was amazing. So I see it all the time, Chuck, because I see it, people using it up here all the time, and I hear stories all the time about the effects of cannabis on people. And the fact that our society is still holding it back, these people that are holding it back, well, one day, guys, they're all going to be held accountable. And they're all going to be put in front of a judge, and they're all going to be charged with crimes against humanity, because if we really think about it, all the millions of people that have died from the use of prescription drugs since it really came into our society, and how many of those people's lives would have been saved if they'd been able to use cannabis and it wasn't taken away from us? We're talking about millions of lives lost because of the prohibition of an incredibly God-given plant that was put on this planet for us to use. And I'm frustrated too. I feel the frustration you guys did, because it's so in our face now. It's so obvious what the agenda is to keep this away from us. Period.
Well, again,
my thoughts.
No, I hear you, but I take to Daniel's point that it's us that we need to look at here, because why is it that we have a desire, but we are waiting for the approval? Why is that going on? But at the same time, I say there is absolutely no reason to not demand that every facility behave according to the will of the people. I'm sorry, but these things are here for us. Supposedly, allegedly. I mean, if they're not there to just be sold off to the highest bidder for the greatest lobbyist, which also tells you a little something about why it is that this has not been, just basically gotten off the books entirely, because there's no reason for the government to be involved in this decision as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, why is it? Well, it's extremely profitable once again to sell Prozac and whatever else is out there right now. I'm not even aware of all the latest psychotropic drugs that are, supposed to be treatments for people that have issues and whatever. But, you can sell benzos and you can sell opiates to people, and that's not a problem because that makes a lot of money for Eli Lilly and whatever company the Bayer Aspirin company is working under in the U.S. currently, and whoever else decides to get their heads in the game regarding this stuff. I mean, and that's the thing. Again, we don't need to give these people tax breaks. I mean, if they have the money to buy politicians, then they don't need a tax break to get more money. What they need to do is stop being allowed to push poison. Here is a good positive use of government, maybe, but same time, why is it that there has not been a higher demand for this ridiculous thing to go away regarding the prohibition? The penalties, because, look, I agree. We can exercise our freedoms, and we should at all times, and I do whenever it is I feel like it. But you know what? At the same time, I've always got to keep in the back of my mind that I have to behave in a certain way because of that prohibition, because, hey, there's other things that could be lost, including, well, for some people it's a job. This is my job, best I can muster at the moment, but, some people might be worried about losing their jobs, their children, their homes, having things seized from them, physical items, whatever. There's a lot of penalties that get attached to this, and therefore it does dictate a lot of people's behavior. And the problem is...
Fear is a very powerful motivator.
I was just going to say that. You took the words out of my mouth.
Well, it certainly is.
Keep you in fear.
And I'd like to give Daniel the last 5 minutes here, basically, to talk about that, because it is extremely relevant to understand that we are the ones who can make this choice and make this happen one way or another. And we do make it happen. I mean, you and I personally do what we do, and that's the way it is. I mean, you're more involved in a bunch of other things, which I'm hoping to discuss with you on air very soon, but not today. And we'll take this past the break and go into a little bit of overtime. But I'd like to give the last couple of minutes to you, Daniel, to just make a short statement about what it is we've talked about in this last little segment here.
Well, man, you guys know how passionate I am about it. I mean, I'm not going to elaborate on it, and there's a lot of details I can't elaborate on, but I'm intimately involved with CannaSense Total Wellness, and so I really believe I have put a year of my life on hold for the cause of cannabis. In this issue, something that really means a lot to me because it touches all of us. It really does. So I'm not going to elaborate on CannaSense so much. But I will say that I have been working with an exceptional group of individuals who are like-minded that make up the CannaSense team. And, I want to give them a shout-out because they're some of the most remarkable people. And they're really working hard to make a change in this country about all the stuff that we've talked about tonight. And they're trying to do some real stuff to make a change in this country. But one of the members is Roger Landry. And Roger, I know Roger. I've gotten to know him over the past few months, but he has repetitiously, over and over, brought this Thomas Jefferson quote up, and it really, really encapsulates the whole issue of cannabis and prohibition and all of that. And the quote is, if people let the government decide what foods they eat and what medicines they take, their bodies will soon be in as sorry a state as are the souls of those who live under tyranny. And that's such a short sentence, man, but it's so relevant and it's so powerful to us right now on 420. And it's just my opinion that the method of how we make cannabis use normal and widespread is a lot less complicated than we have allowed ourselves to believe. It is a simple matter if we are educated to simple concepts like the Bill of Rights, personal sovereignty, and your connection to divinity and your right as a creation to express your worship in a way that you see fit without any interference from the state. And I'm sorry, I've read a lot of scriptures from a lot of different faiths, and they all speak highly of cannabis, all of them. So, I just think that it really begins with you as a person individually, and you can't wait for the next person beside you to do the right thing. You just got to look in the mirror and say, today I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to make cannabis use as normal and everyday common as I possibly can. Like me, Chuck, I go out into my cul-de-sac. I live in a cul-de-sac, and I have no problem taking my medicine out in the open at a movie theater, at a park, and it's a conversation starter. It gets the conversation started when you pull out a vaporizer, take a puff, and say, "Oh, this is my medicine. It's THC." And then you get to open this conversation with people in your own vicinity, in your own town. That's how you do it. You're not going to do it in Washington. You're not going to do it with senators and congressmen and presidents. You have to do it at your local level. You have to do it with your sheriff's department and let them know, hey, if you live in a military town, go to your local sheriff and say, hey, sheriff, are you going to partner with us, the people of this county and town, to help our veterans? And here's a way we could do it. How about you just, not enforce any criminalization laws towards cannabis and let our people get well? How about we do that? Go down to your city hall and do that. Do it when the cameras are there, the NBCs, the ABCs, and the Foxes. Do it. Put your city council on the spot. Do it in an articulate way. Go down to your city hall, get in front of the cameras and say, hey, I really would appreciate the support of our sheriff's department to not enforce any criminal charges for someone using cannabis as a medicine. We can do that. Just grab a few people in your town and go and do it. And that's how we change it. It starts with you, man, in the mirror.
Well, that's the truth. And look, I'm going to close out the normal 2-hour session of the Ochelli Effect tonight with exactly that thought. But it is a 420. It is a Friar's Day, and we're going to go into the after effect. So for those of you on the live stream or who are members or on my Patreon over at patreon.com, guess what? You're going to get the after effect. But as for the rest of you, well, the evening has come to a close. So we're back on the live stream here at Ochelli.com, and of course, it is a 420 episode, and this is the after effect. Daniel Lewis Crumpton is still with me. Barry Prince is still with me from the regular show, and we're receiving a call. Let's see if I can bring them up. There it is. We have a caller on the line. How you doing?
Hi, guys. This is Bobby Blake.
Bobby Blake, how you doing?
I heard about Daniel's new book offer.
Okay. So Daniel's on the line. Daniel, I guess you have a book offer out there. Again, this is not during the regular show, but we're still live on Ochelli.com. And go ahead, Daniel. You got some kind of book offer out there?
Hey, this is Bobby Blake. You sent me an email last week?
Yes, I did. I'm very interested in promoting your book.
Mr. Blake, this is a radio show, and for one thing, the manuscript of that book's not even finished yet. I'll get to your email, though. So this is probably I'm sorry, Chuck. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Mr. Blake, what you do is definitely get in touch with Daniel. We're we're live on the air.
I should have my people call his people. I got a far reach on Wall Street. I know a lot of people. I could get this out there.
Bobby, I write fiction, dude. I write fiction, like it's science fiction stuff that I write. It has nothing to do with the financial markets or anything. I thought.
It's all right. It's all right. I got a very far reach on Wall Street. I could get you a couple dollars to promote it.
Mr. Blake.
I'll read you this email. I got some partners.
Okay, Bobby, you know what? Get in touch with Daniel, through the email and stuff or whatever contact information. Daniel, you'll email him later, I guess?
Bobby, what's your email again? Is it Bobby Blake at, what was it again?
It's Chester Gobblecock at yahoo.com.
What? What? Mr. Blake, what? What was that?
Listen to this email. I'm a prince from Zimbabwe, and if you give me your bank account, I'll be able to donate $1 million to your fund for your book. I'm talking to a lot of people in India, too. They're offering all kinds of stuff for us. One of them was beating his magic carpet outside, and I asked him, could he get it? He couldn't get it started. I don't know what these people are doing. I don't know, but I'm going to have my people call your people. I got to talk to human resources first.
But you wait.
And you need a title. You need a title.
Mr. Blake, listen to me.
Hold on a second. Let me talk to human resources. Mom, is it okay if we promote Daniel's book? No? Why not? She says no, Daniel.
I am riveted
I can't
right
do
now.
it.
I'm absolutely riveted right now. I
BB.
really do appreciate you calling in, Bobby. I do.
BB, look,
Who's
BB,
this? Is this Chuck?
BB.
Daniel,
Yeah.
I know these people in Boston. They own a hardware store. And I know they got a perfect end cap for your book. It could go right between the black cork and the white cork. It'll be a perfect display for you.
I did say that the
Are
book
you
was...
picking up what I'm laying down?
BB. The book is about the Tower of Babel, but it's not going to fit in a hardware store between the white caulk and the black caulk, okay? It's going to be in
The
a completely
Tower of
different...
Babel?
Yeah, okay? That's what
What
it is.
the hell's that?
It's... BB, this is not the avenue for you to be reaching me. Look, if I don't pick up the phone, that
What
means I'm
you
busy,
need?
BB.
Hey, I just want you to feel nice and secure, Daniel. If you need, if this ain't the right reach, maybe I should try to reach around for you.
BB.
I'm very good at tossing salads. Do you prefer jelly or jam?
I want to thank you for your contribution tonight, Bobby.
Just, BB, this is Chuck. He's been trying to become my publicist for the longest time. I'm so sorry. Typically, I try to get back to BB, but he heard I had a new book in the works, and
You've been dodging me, Daniel. Can we
BB,
have a
before you
tea
go, I gotta
party
get your connection,
sometime?
buddy.
BB,
I want to interview you.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
BB, look, me and you are supposed to be working on a program to get kids in Pakistan the medicine that they need, and that was kind of where I said,
Well, I like kids. Hey, Daniel, come here and reach in my pocket. I got some shiny quarters for you.
I don't need quarters, BB. I don't need quarters. That's just, look.
What about candy?
I'm good, man. I've had like a Twinkie and a Skinny Cow ice cream on 420, so I'm good. But BB,
oh, so you like the cream filling?
BB, we
can arrange that, buddy.
There's proper channels of trying to get a hold of me. Do you understand? You can't come on to a radio show when I'm on here to talk about becoming, my publicity and things like that, BB. Okay, it's becoming egregious. What you're doing is harassment, and I feel molested at this point. And BB, I'm gonna have to.
Did you enjoy it?
I'm gonna have to take some kind of legal action because this is going overboard. Okay.
Oh, not again. I gotta go, Daniel. Mom, he's threatening me. BB, I gotta go.
Just send. All right, I'll email you, man. Just.
And if you'd like to call in, the number is 252-301-2255.
I gotta ask you, Daniel, is this a normal cross section of your friends?
This is not the normal venue for someone to contact Daniel regarding his publicity or book, but if you want to call in and talk about the topic that we did have at hand before, I just had a terrible time trying not to hurt myself laughing. 252-301-2255. We're still live on the stream, and I have absolutely no words for the phone caller we just took. Barry, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, it was entertaining for sure. I was cutting myself, man. I thought the guy was legit when he first started calling in, but you must have. Did you stage that, Daniel? Or
No, this
was that guy for real?
you couldn't make it up, brother. This he's been courting uh, my talent skills for a minute, and it is really becoming like
Oh, he's a
it.
funny dude. Whoever
It's
he was
it's getting
funny.
it's getting a little creepy. I mean, BB's a good guy. I hear great things about him, and maybe I could work with his firm later. I'm sure he would enjoy that. But he's a colorful guy, and I guess if I don't pick up my phone quick enough or after about a month, then that's what is resorted to. So I apologize for
Well,
that. I really
it's
apologize for that.
no, no,
No,
no, listen,
that was entertaining.
no worries at all. And just what cracks me up is I see a Jersey area code and I go, oh no, maybe this is somebody who, like knows me from high school who looked me up because that's happened on the show before. And I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
BB,
bracing myself for that. I got this instead. So,
BB's
okay.
BB is from New Jersey as far as I know. So that's about right. So
Not a problem. And look, you don't have to be as funny as BB. If you want to call in 252-301-2255. We were having a very serious discussion. Although if you're smoking right now, I'm sure that your eyes are filled with tears and your sides might hurt a little, but smoke a little more cannabis, they'll hurt less. 252-301-2255, and if you're on my Skype list, you can join in. This is the after effect of the Ochelli effect, and yeah, so Daniel, aside from your adventures in publishing, I wanted to continue that discussion, if you don't mind, but can anybody remember where we were?
What were we talking
Previous to
about?
BB's call.
Bobby Blake. Yeah.
That's how he identified himself, so I'm assuming that's who he is. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I have been partaking of cannabis tonight, as is my right, and think about it. That situation for me would have been very awkward had I not had the spirit within me to just chill and let it become the comedic, brilliant thing that it is, that life is. And see, I think that's what the problem. Dude, Chuck, you have to be intense on the radio, and that's energetically exhausting. And it's like we have to stop and we have to start laughing at ourselves as a people, at ourselves as individuals. We have to have a sense of humor. We really do. And what better way to laugh at ourselves in the state of things? I mean, check it out, dude. And Chuck, I swear to God, I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to talk about it. But this is where we find ourselves in 2018. The President of the United States of America is a game show host for real. Okay? That's the reality of the situation. We have to laugh at ourselves, man. We really, really do. Because
yeah. Well, when the president's lawyer is lawyering up, and and we're having to talk openly about porn stars and exactly who's suing who, and the career promised to the Playboy Bunny by the Inquirer, who decided to kill a story, and then of all people, Rudy Giuliani literally joins his legal team to try and negotiate an end to the settlement of an investigation related to the possibility of collusion with the Russians. I mean, we have definitely entered an alternate reality, from the one I used to know as a child, certainly, and the idea that, the clown Donald Trump is literally in the White House, and there are people that take him so seriously that they want to celebrate his bombing of people in foreign lands as, his first real presidential act. We have certainly gone through the looking glass, Alice. So, there is no reason to not try and calm down about all this, because really, this in and of itself could be disturbing. I imagine on occasion, Daniel, what it would be like for somebody to have gone into a coma, say, in the year 2000, and have woke up today. Okay. I don't know if they could possibly endure the news of what has gone on between 2000 and 2018 in this country and on this planet. Hey, look, there's a nuclear reactor that's been exploding for about 5 years. It's in Japan. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump is president. Oh, by the way, those two towers in New York City, they're gone. Guess what? We've been at war in the Middle East now longer than we were in Vietnam. Hey, also, we had a CIA torture thing that went on. And, oh, by the way, here's your list of celebrities that exist right now that seem to be driving a lot of these discussions. There's the Me Too movement, which involves a whole lot of interesting stuff. Women marched on Washington wearing pussy hats. I kid you not.
When was this, dude? Did I miss this?
Oh, what? No, you don't know about that?
Dude, I gotta tell you, I have not understood a single reference that you've made in the past few minutes here. Because I've been,
the only thing you probably caught was 9/11.
I mean, I literally, like, for the past year, I've literally been so disconnected, and it feels so good to not know what the hell you're talking about, to not have to keep up with that shit. Here's what I knew, dude, and you know me, man. I'm all into politics, but man, the minute that I heard that Donald Trump was the nominee for the Republican Party, I stopped paying attention and have not looked back, because at that point, it's like, okay, dude, I might as well. No, I'm not going to do that. Here's what I am going to do. I'm just going to look for really great fiction, like whatever, in books, on Netflix, on whatever, Star Trek. Give me Lost in Space. Give me Stranger Things. Give me anything to escape that fake-ass reality. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, especially when we could add into the equation this wonderful little piece. Remember that there's a guy named Ted Cruz who was actually running against Donald Trump during the selection process in 2016. Now, he lost to Donald Trump, and during that campaign, he was alleging that Donald Trump was alleging that Ted Cruz's father was literally connected to Lee Harvey Oswald, and therefore his family had a connection to the assassination of a previous president. And this was literally one of the points of argument in public, all of that being fostered by a headline on the front page of the National Enquirer. And then, wait a minute, and then 2 years later, less than 2 years later, he would be writing poetry publicly to Donald Trump, basically saying that he is a great grenade, which has been thrown into the hallways of Washington, D.C., waxing poetic about the individual who accused his father of being tied to the alleged assassin of John F. Kennedy on the front page of the Enquirer. And all of this is being taken seriously while he throws tirades on Twitter, that is the President of the United States. And this guy, Ted Cruz, is still also employed as a senator. I just want you to keep that all in mind. He's the guy from Texas, just in case. Again, speaking to that person who might have just come out of a coma, yeah, we live in a strange, strange place, and it's called Earth. Go ahead.
See, I like all that stuff you just said when you just are honest and you call it The Young and the Restless. Because it's a soap opera. I mean, look, I ain't going to go quoting book, chapter, and verse, but I'm pretty sure the Constitution says Congress was really only supposed to meet like one day a year. So what are we doing paying attention to all this bull crap anyway, man? Our government, it's wild, dude. But it's like the WWF or the World Wrestling, whatever. It's a soap opera. You got soap operas for women, soap operas for men, which is, your wrestling federation and whatnot. And you got soap operas for like cerebral types, and it's called politics. Yeah, but I assure you, it's all a show. It's all a show. Really government, like I've been saying the whole time, you want to see true government, go and walk into your bathroom or walk into your bedroom, look at your own eyes in the mirror. Go as above, so below, as within, so without. That's the government. It's you, man. Just start. I'll keep saying that, dude. That stuff it'll drown you if you let it, man. All of this stuff going on it'll drown your soul. Go out, do not put your cell phone. I'm sorry, I hate this is a pet peeve of mine. Whatever room you sleep in, you should make it a rule that your cell phone's not allowed in that room.
Oh, absolutely. And here, let me enter my last verse in the dueling banjos of reality for everybody. Barbara Bush died just, a day or two ago, I think just yesterday. But, hey, it all blends together for me. Barbara Bush died just the other day. Yes, that's the wife of George H.W. Bush and therefore the mother of George W. Bush. And she's going to be having, one of these wonderful celebrated funerals out there because she refused medical treatment after a long-term illness and decided to allow herself to die and therefore did. Her husband is still alive. But anyway, back to the reality. Do you know that the President of the United States literally had his people issue a statement stating that he thought that his appearance at her funeral would be disrespectful in and of itself, and therefore he's not going? Okay, I just wanted to throw that in there along with it, and I turn my verse back over to you, Daniel.
She died?
Yeah, she did. That's true.
Aleister Crowley's daughter or something, right? She died?
According to some people. No, I'm just entering it into there. Like I said, this is my verse of the guitar versus your banjo, or my banjo versus your guitar. I'm not sure which.
Man, look, dude, I mean, look, I'm just of the opinion at this point. I mean, if you really look back, when you had like Ron Paul, you know I'm a hardcore Ron Paul guy. When a dude like that comes along in a generation and he speaks as simple as you possibly can speak about what this entire country is about, and it does set off like a chain reaction in the subculture and the younger people. Like when you have a guy like that, a mouse that can roar like that, to wake people up and remind them, you know, what we are supposed to be about in this country, right? And then after that, you can have Obama, Trump, and then next probably Oprah Winfrey, if the stars play out. You know, it's like...
Let me interject also the possibility that Rocky Johnson, that's right, The Rock, might possibly run for president. That has been floated recently, along with, yes, indeed, Oprah Winfrey, and even people trying to push Ted Nugent to get his game on regarding getting into the public arena, as far as getting elected to an office, and let's not forget our friend Kid Rock, who might run for senator apparently, or representative in the state of Michigan. Okay, go ahead.
It's the United States of American Idol.
That's it.
No, I think the Kid Rock thing was a gag, I think. But might as well. I mean, why not, dude? It's a corporation. I mean, the United States of America is a corporation anyway. You know what I'm saying? That's just, you can get all into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But if you look at word magic, and Chuck, you and I both know magic. It's all word magic, and it's a corpse. The United States of America is a corporation with a CEO and a board of directors, and that's what that show is in the District of Columbia. Okay, that's what it is. The real republic isn't those talking heads and puppets that you see. It's really, really not. You know, so I don't know, man. I think it's a good time to disconnect from that machine, because we've been feeding it energy. You know, our attention, our time, our panic, our anxiety. What are they going to do? What legislation are they going to pass next? It's going to do this or that, and we just disregard it. Just ignore them. Ignore them. We have a 9th and a 10th Amendment, man. It's called nullification. It's personal nullification, state nullification. Okay, all you got to do is go. Marbury versus Madison basically says that if these assholes write one piece of inferior law that tries to make any of my rights illegal, or demand a license or a fee or a tax for a previously secured right, I, according to the Supreme Court, get to disregard that piece of puny legislation and enjoy my right with impunity. And that's what we have to do, man. It says not an open court of law. If the states or the counties write some stupid legislation that takes away one of your rights, Marbury versus Madison says it's null and void of law before the ink dries. It's a fiction of law. The state has no power to enforce, and the citizen has no obligation to obey. We don't have to brand unconstitutional legislation unconstitutional in open court of law, people. We just have to look at it, know English, and say, no, I got a right to this, 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 and this. Because Byers versus the United States said what? It says that the Constitution must receive a liberal interpretation in favor of the beneficiary. That's the citizen. That's you and that's me. So it doesn't necessarily mean what a lawyer with a bar, who's actually under, a British title of nobility, says the Constitution says. Chuck, you know full well, I've had to go and defend myself in a courtroom where I was arrested for walking my dog in a public park and spent 3 days and 3 nights in jail. And I had to show the solicitors and the judge the Bill of Rights to prove to them that I get a jury trial guaranteed if the matter is of controversy is over $20. And I had the judge and the solicitors who went to law school look at me and say that they had never seen that. Never. And this is a judge determining people's fate based off of an oath that he gave to defend and uphold the Constitution from enemies both foreign and domestic. Now, wait a second. How can you defend what you don't even know, dude? How are we letting this happen? You know, but it's not really complicated. It really does get down to Marbury versus Madison, Shuttlesworth versus Alabama, and what's the third Supreme Court one? You just lock them together, and it says, look, dude, the states can't come along and take away a previously secured right. You know, we don't need permission, people, man. We just need to get with like-minded people, have 420 parties every day, you know, make it normal, you know, pass out flyers in your town. I don't know. I don't know what to tell people, but
again, though, we can't necessarily ignore what's happening, but we don't have to be engulfed in it and swallowed by it. I'll enter one more verse, actually. I know I said I was going to do that one last, but here we go. One more. We now have the newly appointed head of state, or the head of our State Department, the Secretary of State, is now the former CIA director, Mike Pompeo, and the replacement for the CIA director over there, allegedly at this point in time, in the continuous cycle of rats fleeing the ship over there in the Trump administration, is a woman who was directly tied to the torture programs and all that kind of good stuff. Longtime CIA person. I guess it's time to go back to torture, because that's the methodology that we want to spread as we try and give freedom to people in foreign lands in our nation building efforts, etc., etc. And meanwhile, you know, we did also bomb Syria once again in another show of force, and now the Russians have admitted that they were told ahead of time, despite the fact that our departments of war making in one way or another had stated repeatedly that they were not told ahead of time. But hey, what is the difference when you can drop some bombs and recycle it and cause the great beast of the military-industrial complex to continuously be fed? Because after all, under Keynesian economics, it is probably one of the greatest jobs programs ever created, the military-industrial complex in and of itself. Because after all, when you drop bombs and you use munitions and you take up all sorts of resources that have to do with logistical concerns, you will have to replace them and refuel them, etc., etc. So everybody gets to make money as long as you are a big corporate industrial scumbag in one way or another. And Wall Street is benefiting pretty well too, although the markets do keep acting in a volatile way. Has very little to do with your daily life, but hey, let's treat it like it's an actual concern. Meanwhile, the dollar is losing value across the planet, and we are certainly losing the any semblance of a reputation for anything other than those who would spread our greater American empire once again. You know, outposts and existence in over 160 countries on the planet. Our military has its fingers in, despite the fact that there's only about 180 some odd that exist, depending on what it is you take as legitimate on a day-to-day basis. And our friends in China laughing all the way to the bank as they sell us plenty of cheap goods and utilize, you know, whatever it is that they've utilized to build their economic structures, while we sit here arguing over foolish things like who goes into the Starbucks, which, by the way, I did find it kind of humorous that although there were two black men that were literally arrested at the Starbucks simply for being black and being in the Starbucks, apparently, even though the CEO turned around and apologized directly, and 8,000 stores were closed so that racial re-education could be given to all of the Starbucks employees. I'm not making this up. You know, we also got treated to some rather fascinating and interesting viral videos where black men walked into Starbucks, and I played one of them on the show here, where, you know, an individual went in and said, "I want my free coffee as reparations for your racism." And most of them got it, because this is the confused culture in which we live at this point. So there you go. And meanwhile, I guess Daniel's general recommendation is smoke weed, and I don't argue with him. Go ahead.
Black people get arrested just for being black at Starbucks? Really?
Yeah, they were waiting to see somebody, and the management called the police and had the police remove them and arrest them. Which, you know, loitering in Starbucks is something that people do, especially a lot of those people that call themselves writers. They seem to just be in there not actually being customers, but writing after they buy one coffee and sit there all day. But these guys happen to go in there, pair them, and apparently be in there and get themselves arrested in a Philadelphia Starbucks. Made national news.
Really, that made national news, huh?
It did.
Wow. Slow news day? Or,
Well, no, never, because
I
we
mean,
have porn stars
hey,
and
wait.
playmates.
I'm confused, Chuck, because did we bomb Syria in the past week?
Yeah, that happened too. That was about a week ago now.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
go ahead with the two black guys got arrested at a Starbucks. I'm sorry. I really want to pay attention to that. I mean, because who cares that we bombed Syria?
Oh, you want to get deeper about it? How about all the greasy war going on in Yemen that nobody's covering? We're literally destroying that country, directly involved. The U.S. military and surrogate forces are all kinds of involved in atrocities over in Yemen. There are drone strikes and missile strikes and things like that constantly.
That's wild,
I
dude.
think
You
about
know,
20 a month. And do you see Yemeni headlines out there?
hey, man,
Do
see,
you
that's
see?
it's wild, dude. This is morbid because like I was talking to somebody the other day, Chuck, and it's like they said that somebody they knew was just about to get deployed, and I said, deployed where? And they said, oh, over to Iraq, and it's like I thought for a second. I said, man, it's 2018, and we're still. It's weird because you don't see it on the news, but we have like military bases all over the place, and we're like messing about all over the world, and it's like
Oh,
now it's
yeah,
become
but
so commonplace that we don't even really think about it. And life goes on in America.
oh no, hostilities have ramped up back in Iraq. Hostilities have ramped up back in Afghanistan. There are engagements outside of Syria involving the Kurds in various places that our forces are involved in. There is something going on in Africa that is also not being reported that I don't even know how to articulate at this point in time.
In Nigeria.
And there are people being deployed everywhere.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, while
Man,
we're sitting
I'm
here
just
talking
saying.
about
Look,
which porn star, well, hang on, while we're sitting here talking about which porn star had a non-disclosure agreement with Donald Trump under a false nickname, and exactly did somebody get paid and who followed through, and was the non-disclosure agreement actually signed, and does the Inquirer have the right to kill a story when a Playboy Playmate signs a similar agreement for about $100,000 less dollars? And does a lawyer do that out of the goodness of his own heart? Well, don't worry about that because he had his door kicked in by the FBI, and he's under indictment right now. And meanwhile, a whole lot of people from this administration are under indictment, but it's all, don't worry about it, Daniel, it's all fake news. So, because Obama, who hasn't actually done anything publicly, but let's keep talking about him, is really the grand enemy of us all. And, I thought he was supposed to be the Antichrist, but he's not doing a very good job. Just for, S&Gs out there, yeah, I don't think he's doing a very good job because he doesn't seem to be capturing any of the headlines. But don't worry, because if, Trump decides to tweet something, he'll get it. And I think one of the funniest things that happened in the past week is a visual graphic was put up on C-SPAN while Representative McConnell was speaking under his name. They usually say this is their name and they're a representative from this state and something else under their name. Well, somebody at C-SPAN had enough of this guy, I guess, because literally they put out a graphic, and as far as I can tell, it's not been photoshopped, that says this man only gets an erection when he's killing poor people. So, all of this is happening in our world, and it's not a movie. Or
man,
maybe
dude,
it is, Daniel.
the aliens need to hurry up and land, dude. If they haven't
Right?
already. Yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. We live in a strange world, dude. A weird time. I know that there's a proverb that says, "May you live in interesting times." Man, certainly, because we do. We really, really do. Uh, I just hope we can get it together, dude. Because, dude, I'm looking around, and I don't like talking about this either, because it just becomes a rabbit hole, becomes a black hole. But it's like I did finally break down. I don't know if you ever caught it, but I wrote one of the longest articles ever about flat Earth. You know. It's
Oh,
like,
boy.
yeah, me and you are both of the same mindset. It's not really worth spending too much time on. So, but I did know, like, I was like, I got to get everything that I really, really believe about the flat Earth thing out of me once and for all, and then once it's vomited out, I'll never have to really touch it again. And I did, and if people want to read it, they can go to my website and stuff like that and read it. But one of the premises in it is like, look, man, Earth's not fucking flat. I'm sorry for swearing, but it's not flat. I mean, maybe it is to you if that's the reality you want, but it's the physics of my reality just say that it's a sphere. Okay, just saying. Everything else is spherical, from atoms to cells to organs and stuff is basically spherical. So I look up at the sky, I see a big ball. In the daytime, and at night there's also a ball. And so I'm like, well, things above tend to be like things below. Maybe it's a sphere. So. But one of the things that I thought was like, well, where the hell is this theory? Where is it just bubbling up from? Because it's so asinine. It really, really is asinine. But it has to be coming from somewhere. There has to be a cause to this effect. And then it dawned on me. I said, well, shoot, in the past, decade or so, we've been like acclimating ourselves as a species to look at flat devices for the most part. So it stands to reason that having to stare at flat things all the time that become a sort of reality, that in the consciousness, the collective consciousness, something as dipshitty as the Earth is flat could bubble back up into everyday conversation.
Right.
With seriousness.
Yeah, there's still
Barry,
people out
what-
there. There's
I
still
was
people out
just-
there, Daniel, that will swear to God that the Earth is flat. I mean, I got a guy in Alberta. The guy is intelligent. He knows what's going on inside the government, sees all the corruption. But this guy is stuck on this flat Earth stuff. And I'm going, you know what? Honestly, guys, I haven't spent 2 minutes of my time on flat Earth at all.
No,
To me, it's
dude,
just a distraction. It's just a distraction. And it worked well. It got us fighting.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine, but like, even though I know it's a crock of shit, I'll still watch flat Earth documentaries just for giggles, man. So it's like a guilty pleasure because it does take your imagination to some cool places. I mean, and I've talked about it. I said, try to convince yourself that the Earth is actually flat and live for like a week. You know what I mean? Really, and and when I did it, like I did it for a week, I was like, okay, I'm going to consider this. I'm going to shift my reality, and I'm going to go about my days as if I live on a flat Earth, and I'm going to talk to other people about flat Earth. I even convinced 1 or 2 people the Earth was flat when I didn't believe it myself. But you know what? When I came back to the reality that I choose to exist in, which is that, I'm sorry, dude. The whole premise of this flat Earth thing, a lot of it, when they talk about the Bible, it's like, no, you're never, ever, ever going to get a flat Earth from the Bible, ever. Okay? The whole premise of the entire book, and I'm not going to get religious, I'm just going to tell you what's what. But the entire premise of the book is that we as humanity are separated from our God because of sin. Okay? And that therefore God must become man and be the sacrifice to atone for our sin, so that the wall of partition between us and divinity could be destroyed and we could become one with God again through the Messiah, right? That's the whole point of the book. The whole narrative is about the Messiah bridging the gap and basically getting rid of this whole sin issue. And the Bible itself says that when you're forgiven, when you are one in Christ, when you're forgiven and you're atoned for, that he will take your sin and he will throw it as far as the east is from the west. And that the reason that it's worded that way is because it says that your sin as if it never happened. He'll take it and he'll throw it over his shoulder as far as the east is from the west, because east and west never meet on a sphere. But these flat Earth cats are sitting here saying that the spherical model means that we live in an infinite universe and God is far, far away. So if you live in a snow globe, he's closer. And I'm like, are you out of your damn mind? My God is so infinite that it goes out in all directions forever and ever in every dimension ever. And so it would look more like a spherical Earth, spherical solar system type thing in my mind. But I'm sorry, whenever you have me living under a dome or having me live on a pie, or, you know what I'm saying? It makes me feel like food for the gods, right? You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen those cats from motels bring you dinner and they got the dome over the top? I don't know what you call those things. The fancy things? No, sterling silver, you know what I mean? Did I lose everybody?
No, I know
No,
exactly
I'm
what
still
you're
here.
talking
Okay.
I'm
about.
still
Yeah,
here. But go ahead,
the
Barry.
fancy little serving
Yeah,
bowls
the
or
fancy little
trays.
serving plate with the
Lift it
dome
up
over
and
it.
then light a fire to it and lights on fire and
Yeah.
whatever. Go
It's
ahead.
like, yeah, so it's like whenever I hear the flat earth thing and their whole model, and God bless them, look, yeah, there's some smart people who believe in the flat earth, and I know what it is. It's a lot of it is they've been lied by the government so damn much. It's like anything that the government says or NASA says has to be a lie. And, you can't go to that extreme, dude. Buddha said you got to go the middle path. If the string is too tight, it'll snap. If it's too loose, it won't play. It's the middle way. Don't go from one extreme to the other. Yeah, NASA lies. We know that NASA lies. NASA don't lie about everything. Okay.
To me, Daniel, I see the whole thing as just a massive distraction, something to get people fighting amongst themselves over something that is so stupid. Like I said, I haven't given it 2 minutes of my time. I haven't watched any of the videos because anybody that's going to tell me the earth is flat shows me the effects of mind control in society. And people are actually to a point where they're adamant that the earth is flat. They can sit there and try to explain to me how the oceans stay in place and blah, 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 blah. I'm going like, buddy, what do I say? I don't have time for it. I just don't. And sure, maybe it's entertaining, but I just don't have time for it because I just see it as a distraction.
Well,
It really got people fighting amongst themselves over something stupid.
it is
So it was effective.
it is entertaining, and I do welcome the conversation. But where it gets scary, Barry, is like whenever I wrote that article, and I basically said, look, you can believe, reality is perspective. So whatever you want to perceive the earth to be, sure, it's because we live in a hologram, in my opinion, anyway. So it's whatever. But that's fine. It doesn't bother me if you want to perceive that the earth is flat, and that's another big thing. But where it gets scary is like when I wrote that article and said, but me personally, I believe that it's a spherical type thing. I had people that had been like Facebook friends of mine, not real friends, but Facebook friends. They had been Facebook friends of mine and like readers of mine and followers or whatever that means of mine for years. And when I basically said, I believe the earth is a sphere, they were like, it was bad. I was banned, I was blocked, I was unfriended, I was sent nasty ass messages. That's where it gets crazy. And that's where it gets scary because that's cult stuff. Okay? That's cult stuff. That's like J-Dub, LDS stuff, okay? And beyond. So it's like, you can't go there, dude. You really can't go there. But what I do think is funny as shit is when Tesla sent that thing up in space and now we got Rocket Man up there. It's like, it's not NASA, but it looks like a round Earth to me. And then they have to do all of these defense videos on why Tesla's lying and that's all CGI, and it's crazy, man. It's so crazy,
Of course. Well, listen, we've gone nearly 3 hours here, so I'm going to put an end to the discussion. But an interesting after effect, to say the least, especially because of the call from BB there. Gotta love that. But meanwhile, we had a lot of serious discussion on the cannabis issue in the first 2 hours, I think. I did okay in the first hour, but in the second hour, I had you guys on. And, of course, you can go to downloadedcontent.com and check out Daniel's work if you're so inclined.
Please.
And you can go give him some hate on Facebook if you like, because he says the earth is not flat. That's fine by me, too. And, if you want to throw some of that hate my way, I'm out there. But it is as it is. And meanwhile, Barry, you have a show which airs on People's Internet Radio now. What time of day does that thing air live?
Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
There you go. And it's still called The Big Puzzle, right?
Yeah, I'm stuck with that.
No, you're not stuck with it. It's a pretty good title, The Big Puzzle, with Barry Prince, the radio star de jour. And, of course,
throw that in there.
DLC, Downloaded Content, which is also another good name. I wasn't very inventive, so, just the Ochelli effect. Not very creative when I came up with the title, but there it is. Anyway, downloadedcontent.com, and if you go to peoplesinternetradio.com, at the times Barry said, you can catch his live show. I don't know if they replay it over there, but there's ways to get a hold of the podcast afterwards too, right?
Yeah, they have an archives over there, and they replay the shows all the time. So you can find me over there on Sundays, and I got some pretty cool guys coming Sunday to join me, so should be entertaining. Going to talk about my prime minister, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. And obviously, we'll talk more about things that matter a lot more, because as Daniel said, I'm not in line with the idea of totally ignoring the government or anything, because you ignore them too long, and this is the situation we find ourselves in as far as I'm concerned. But they don't have to be the primary force that drives your emotional and psychological well-being on a daily basis. You're actually responsible for that. And hey, when it comes to cannabis, it just seems like a no-brainer once again. Of course, there are people that'll say, there are those that become so entrenched in it that they destroy their lives. But truth is that people eating junk food can destroy their lives, and people participating in anything which is part of the natural world, like sex, in an excessive fashion, can destroy their lives. People that are, too obsessed with just about anything and too hardcore participatory in various things that are wholly natural, when partaken of, can destroy themselves, because that is one of those things that we have the power to do as well. So you have a choice at any given moment to destroy yourself or to make yourself better, and you can use some good things to destroy yourself on occasion. But cannabis in and of itself doesn't have a criminal mindset, because it's a plant. Anyway, I leave my thoughts at that. And Barry, is there anything you'd like to close with here?
Well, Chuck, I agree. I have to keep going down the rabbit holes, because unfortunately we live in a dark world, and people got to know what's going on. But you know what I do now at the end of my day, buddy, is I roll up a big fat one, and I'll watch a couple of videos of a kitty cat making friends with a duck, or a cow playing with a horse, or somebody whose dog hasn't seen them in a year and they're reunited at the airport. And I always make sure I watch that kind of a video before I go to bed, because it is a dark world out there. But make sure you go to bed with a smile on your face, and you'll have sweet dreams. It works for me.
There you go. I like
That's my advice
cartoons.
for the day, Chuck, because it works, buddy.
No, it's cool. I like cartoons myself, but
Yeah.
hey, we all have our own thing. Daniel, anything you'd like to close with?
Yeah, man, happy 420, guys. Man, I had a good time tonight. I've been kind of hiding under a rock doing my thing with the CannaSense for forever. And I'd appreciate anybody who's listening, Art, for your positive energy and prayers for the project that I'm working with, because it can solve a lot of the problems that, like we talked about tonight, man, a lot of problems that we see in our families and in our towns. Like the guys who are working with me, we really believe in this, and cannabis is a beautiful gift that was given to us, and we as a people have to set it free. And I'm just working on one avenue for that to be done, but it's like, this country's been through it, dude. This world's been through it. This species has been through it, and it's just time for us to relax, get ourselves together, get into nature a little bit, and get this evolution thing going in a way that we really want it to. I know that we can do it, man. I know that we can do it as a people. We just, we have to get tired of being broken. That's all. And I think it starts with cannabis. I do.
Well, listen, it's certainly not a bad place to start. I think it starts with, first of all, taking into account the reality around you and deciding exactly how you're going to participate in it. Go into everything with the proper mindset. Fear is not supposed to be the driving force in your life. Anxiety is not supposed to be the driving force overall for your decisions. You're supposed to be part of an experience here. Another person who's often on this show says that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I like that perspective. And if it doesn't work for you, fine, I totally understand. But at the end of a 3-hour show, I got to tell you that it is something that I think is relevant, that we need to take a step back and understand that, at every given moment, there is another opportunity to make a different choice and to change the equation. So that is how I will end this particular after effect portion of the Ochelli effect. Again, another additional hour. And I want to thank BB for calling in. The other attempted calls that didn't go so well, but BB's was kind of entertaining. Meanwhile, Daniel Lewis Crumpton joined me from downloadedcontent.com, and Barry Prince from The Big Puzzle, the talk show out there, the host with the most, I don't know what. But anyway, either way, there he is. And no matter who you are, where you are, I am merely Ochelli. Every last one of you who participates in this show makes a donation, goes into the live chat room at Ochelli.com, whatever it may be. All of you that participate, you are indeed the effect. Have a good night.